Hello, this is originalspelling.co.uk and we are testing whether or not we can do Google Hangout interviews because that seems to be the thing that people do now. So joining me for this experiment is indie author Katie Marie, who's just published Grey Wings, and
Yay.
my name is Jessica and The Secret of Hidden Places. So wow, you've been busy.
It has
Hello,
been.
Katie. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff. No worries at all. I'm
So,
glad to be the lab rat in this particular experiment.
yes, greetings.
Oh, dear.
We've just, obviously, we have seen each other recently because we were both at Melksham Comic Con 2014 last weekend,
We
which
were
was
indeed.
an absolutely brilliant time, if very tiring.
Yeah,
So, Monday, I was just dead to the world Monday.
yeah, that's it. I had a lazy day Monday myself.
Mm. Did you enjoy Melksham?
Very much so. It was really great to get out there and meet people and obviously vlog my pieces, my wares, as they know. Yeah, that makes me sound something like a lady of the night. Obviously not.
Yes,
Yeah.
she of course means these.
Yes, let's be clear on that one.
Yes, books.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
it was really great. It was definitely an experience. It's not, I mean, I've been to cons before, but always just as one of the people spending all the money. So no, it was really nice to actually to get out there and to be the one selling something for a change. And it was a really quite a unique experience. So yeah,
mm,
something I'd do again, definitely.
same here. And I know I was speaking to someone else as well, and they said it was nice to get that perspective of being the person behind the table rather than,
Mm,
and it's just a whole different interaction and networking. So,
yeah.
mm. And so we've got Grey Wings, The Secrets of Hidden Places, and My Name is Jessica, which I have read both of these now, and I thought they were both brilliant,
Thank you.
and also very different as well. But I was very surprised because obviously you got The Secrets of Hidden Places. It's sort of, I don't want to use urban fantasy because that's sort of overused now, I think, but
Mm,
that's sort of modern but with a very fantastical twist.
yeah, yeah.
And then you have My Name is Jessica, which sort of was like Neon Genesis Evangelion crossed with the X-Men, which very hard
I
sci-fi.
like it. That's cool.
So where does so obviously you've got these two very different worlds and very different writing genres and styles. So where does your inspiration come from for that? How do you come up
Well,
with your ideas?
um, to be honest, I get my inspiration from all over the place. I can get from loads of different places.
Hmm.
For example, the other day, my dad and I were in the Imperial War Museum. We were looking at the galleries with all the paintings, and there was one painting in particular. It was very sad. It showed all of the fallen soldiers on the field of battle, as it were, and there were loads of representations of what I'm assuming. I could be completely wrong, but they were like I thought they were meant to represent death, and there were so many of them, and it,
Mm,
it actually clicked in my brain. I was like, I could write a story about that,
mm,
to draw a very adventurous comparison with Terry Pratchett with his idea that the Tooth Fairy isn't just one creature; there's loads of them. There's like a veritable army of Tooth Fairies working along the same lines, but for death, all descended from the original one, but then the idea sort of died in my brain by the time I hit the cafeteria and got obsessed with bacon rolls. Tooth
bacon roll.
does tend to shove things out of my brain. I'm
Mm,
sure it'll fester in there for a little while though, and no doubt it'll rise up again. They usually do.
mm. Because I think there was some, I can't remember who it was, and I think it was Paul Cornell who was talking the other day on Twitter about the power of background thinking and how you've constantly got an idea in the back of your mind while you're doing other things, and then you suddenly realise that you've put something which should have gone in the fridge in the cupboard because you've
Yeah,
been thinking about something else.
done that before. But I find my subconscious tends to hold on to a lot of my ideas as well. They tend to come out in dreams. I mean, one of my upcoming novels, quite far in the future now, was actually a dream I had. It was very very in depth though, which is quite rare for my dreams. Normally they're very vague, but this one it just walked into my head. and my subconscious threw it at me like a brick, really. I couldn't ignore it.
Mm.
But they do, inspiration comes from everywhere. Like I was saying, painting. Sometimes it's music, if I hear something on the radio, or if I'm just listening to my iPod on shuffle and something pops up, and this little sort of film strip will go along with the song, and I'll be like, that would be really good. They
Mm.
get they come from everywhere, really. There's no specific source that I find that I sit there and think, oh, I need an idea. I'm going to go to such and such a place. I wish I
Mm.
did. It would be so much easier.
Yeah.
I could have like my idea space. That would be nice.
Like an inspiration room just full of
Mm,
pictures and music and
that would be great. I need a bigger house set.
mm, that is the problem, is finding space. Is it Virginia Woolf who said you just need money, time, and a room of one's own to
Mm,
actually
you're
do
right.
something. Mm.
You're
So
very,
how
very right.
so how did you get started in writing? Is it something you've always done, or was there a specific point where you thought, actually, I really enjoy this? And
I don't know. It's kind of a bit of both, really. I mean, my mum, God bless her, still has stories I wrote when I was like 5, which is great that she likes to bring up and shove in my face every now and again when I'm hopefully selling more books than I am now. So I'm going to tell people about this one. I'm keeping it in reserve for blackmail material or something.
mm,
But so I have always been one to jot down stories, and I was always making up things when I was little. I just didn't always write them down, which is probably a good thing. My imagination was quite twisted when I was little, still is. But but yeah, the point where I really started writing regularly, I think, was when I actually went to college and met the lovely yourself. And I actually
geez,
started writing fan fiction to start with because I
mm,
was absolutely obsessed with Legacy of Kain and Hellsing and all sorts of different fandoms. And when the episodes or when I stopped playing, my brain didn't shut down. It just kept going with things. I was like, that would be really cool if that went. I'm going to write that down. So it's God, my early absolutely dreadful. It was awful. I dread to think that I've actually did that. But it's still interesting to look back and see something absolutely dire I did and look at what I'm doing now.
mm,
But I think it was probably second year of college I actually started writing my own stuff. And I can't remember what it was that triggered me to go from just fan fiction to go into my own stuff. It might have just been one of those weird moments you have when your brain sort of strokes off a little bit and then you just find yourself doing something completely different from the norm. But
mm,
there you have
mm.
it.
It's interesting you because I was going to ask about fan fiction because
Mm.
of it's sort of this very grey wings grey area with a lot of they are plenty book with a lot of writers, and you get some writers which are very accepting of it and some producers that are very accepting of it. A key example being the Star Trek,
Mm.
where they've basically said, go ahead, do what you want, just don't go making any money from it. And then at
Mm.
the other end of the schedule, you have some authors who have actually contacted like fanfiction.net and possibly AO3, I don't know, and said, we don't want our any work based on what we've produced being hosted on your
Right.
site.
Fanfiction.net does actually have a list of authors who said they don't want people writing fan fiction on their stuff.
Yeah. So just as someone who, as you say, you started in fan fiction and you think that gave you the drive to then go
Practice.
into original practice. What do you feel are the pros and cons? Do you think there are?
Well, I'm quite squarely in the camp that fan fiction is a good thing. I
Mm,
think it anything that encourages creativity in any age range, be it tiny children to the elderly, anything like that. It's
mm,
it's got to be a positive thing. It's just got to be. And I can understand some people being possessive of their intellectual property, of their ideas, but then if I turned around one day and found there was a little section somewhere for Grey Wings fan fiction, I can't, I'd just be so flattered. I really
mm,
would be. I think it's one of the most sincerest forms of flattery ever. But
mm,
then it is tricky because you do tend to find people are either they love it or they hate it. It's kind of like Marmite.
Mm.
and some people hate other people's interpretation of the characters, and everybody seems to forget that that's what fiction is and stuff. It's just an interpretation of something. It's not canon. Not unless
Mm.
it's like, isn't it? It's the Warhammer people who actually take stuff in and they will publish it as canon, or
I
I could
think
just be making
I
that up.
know Bungie have for the Halo series. They've taken stuff which fans have produced and incorporated it in. I haven't heard about Warhammer, but it does sound like the sort of thing Warhammer would do.
Well, I know Adventure Time did.
Mm.
They picked up some stories that some people had wrote, the Fiona and Kate storylines. They were sent in, as it were, and they've been
Mm.
picked up and ran, and they turned them in brilliant. I really like them. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it encourages people to have a go. I mean, when I was starting out, I couldn't comprehend creating my own in-depth characters, so it was nice to be able to pick up somebody else's, as it were, and sort of play with them and have, like I said, a bit of a practice. I mean, I still write fan fiction now.
Mm.
When I get like a brain worm and something gets in there, and I'm like, oh, that's got to go, got to come out, otherwise it will fester, and it'll be bad.
I think I definitely agree with the idea of being able to write and create your own things when you have practiced, and also learning about different characterizations and how
Mm,
nuances that make one character and sets them apart from another. And I think writing fan fiction is a very good way to learn that, so
mm.
that then when you go on to create your own characters, you can make them that little bit richer.
Yes, yeah, indeed, exactly.
Mm,
So like I said, I can't say enough. I do think it is a good thing.
mm.
I
Would
mean, it
you?
doesn't just work for writing either. I mean, look at all the artists who have
Mm,
started out. I mean, I'm on DeviantArt quite a lot. I've come across artists who were started out drawing Harry Potter fan art to start, like, to begin with, and then they've gone on and now they're their own animators and drawing their own series and whatnot.
and
So
there is really, really good fan art out there.
there is some amazing stuff. It's quite scary.
Whoa! Did the producers know that you exist? Have they hired
Yeah.
you?
No, I think it's a way for new talent to get discovered. It's a good way for people to practice. It encourages people to be creative. I don't get how it can be seen as a bad thing. I think
Mm,
if somebody writes something that you don't agree with, for example, if they take a character from a fan in a direction you wouldn't with, then the back button's right there for you. I mean, I've come across some fan fiction I absolutely love, and some stuff that I think it's a bit out of character for me. So I just
mm.
hit the back button. It's not particularly difficult.
I know.
It's
If
an
only
easy thing
more
to do.
people knew where the back button was sometimes.
Yes, yeah, I think
Internet.
people can be a little bit overcritical about things, but then on the other hand, again, I keep contradicting myself because I can see how people get like that because they see these characters and they fall in love with them, and then to see somebody, I suppose they could see it as they're taking something they love and doing something wrong with it. They're destroying it, they're twisting it in a way that you don't want. So I can see why people do get emotional about it.
Mm.
But still, we have to try and remember it's all fan fiction. It's not canon. I don't know why that's in inverted commas, but hey.
No, I think yeah, fan fiction versus canon. It's very important, and you do get some fandoms where an idea is so strong throughout that you almost forget that it's not canon
Yeah.
sometimes. Do you think if you came across, you mentioned if you came across fan fiction for Grey Wings or fan art, you'd be quite touched. Do you think you'd read it, or do you think you'd be worried about accidentally stealing somebody else's intellectual property right of your intellectual property right?
Oh gosh, we're going to open up a whole can of worms there. No, I think I would give it a go. I'd be interested to see what somebody else would do with my characters. Particularly, I'd like to see what people do with Aurelius because he's fun to play with. He really is.
Yeah, he's
He's
definitely
so stroppy.
he's definitely my favourite character of yours, and I love him. But it's going to sort of part ruin the beginning of the book for people. But this image of this very bored receptionist in heaven, just sending people to hell for the least little thing. It's just such a
Because he can't be bothered to let them in.
he's just such a unique view of someone in that situation. It made heaven made heaven a very real place. I mean, I touch and go whether or not it is a real place. Some people believe, some people don't. But I thought that image of just the receptionist in heaven just made it very real.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he was so bitter about it as well. Because he wasn't, he was just covering for Peter. So Peter got to go to Disneyland.
Mm.
Everybody should go to Disneyland. It's great.
I've never been. I'd like
Oh,
before I
go
die.
to the American one, the one in Florida. It's great.
Mm.
Anyone, before I start becoming a travel agent or a tour operator or some such.
Check us in the post, Disney. With obviously the real world, because you and I both, although as much as it would be lovely to be able to make money from writing and write full time, the world unfortunately does have this concept known as reality and rent and bills. So you have to have a full time job.
Damn you, reality.
I know, damn you. How do you find finding the balance and finding time to write when you get home from work in the evening? And sometimes you've probably had a long day at work and you just want to just go to bed. Do you find that you have to push yourself to write sometimes, or is it something that you have to be in the mood for, otherwise there's just no point even trying?
Well, I actually set myself timetables and schedules. I'm anally organised when it comes to pretty much everything. Most people don't realise that about me because I seem quite chaotic and I tend to forget a lot of things. But I do have like a timetable. I say to myself, right, I want to get one chapter of this one done this week. I'd like a bit of drafting done for this one this week, and I'd like to do a bit of that. And then I just spread it out during the week. That way, I know if I come home on Monday evening and I'm too tired, it's fine because I don't have to do it on Monday. I just have to make sure it gets done in the week. And
Mm.
sometimes I find I get it done really early in the week, and I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs for the rest of the week. But other times I find I'm sitting there Sunday night thinking I haven't done a blooming thing. No. So
Get
I
the
try not to be too hard on myself because it's my own timetable. It's not set in stone. I can jiggery pokery with it if I want to.
mm.
But I also find my commute helps quite a lot. I tend to find myself writing quite a bit in my commute. I've got a good 40 minutes there and back from work. So I live in a small town in Norfolk and I work in Norwich. So
Mm.
the commute's always useful, sitting there with a notebook scribbling away. The only problem is finding some space.
Mm.
If
I
public
think
transport is inaccessibly busy, which it can be.
I was going to say I think we should stress at this point that we're talking about a train, not driving.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
work.
Yes, I don't drive, not to work anyway, but I
Just
wouldn't mind not
driving along the
driving.
motorway with it.
That would be
Mm. Yes.
yeah, I don't like dead time. So if I find myself sitting there for 20 minutes, get the book out, start scribbling, but then sometimes, like you said, you are just too blooming tired and you
Mm.
just need to recharge. So
Mm. But
um,
it's obviously working because you've had what 3 books out in the space of about a year. That's only
yeah,
two.
yeah. Well, Grey Wings is out on paperback and ebook format, whereas My Name is Jessica and Grey Wings made their debut at Comic Con in paperback format, but I'm hoping to have them out on Amazon in ebook format. Um, hopefully this weekend. Actually, I've been working on getting them up and getting out there. So, and I'm going to be putting them on the gosh, I always forget what this thing is called. The Kindle, is it Kindle Direct or am I just making that up as well?
I know the one you yeah I know the one you mean because I used it myself for one of my books. I think it is Kindle Direct, and then it makes the book available to Amazon Prime, and you can do like download promotions and stuff like that.
Yes, I was actually planning on having them both available for free for like a 30-day.
Mm.
They've just come out sort of deal.
Mm. So they'll be exclusive to Amazon then. They'll be
They
exclusive to
will be, yeah,
Amazon.
just to start. And then we'll see about spreading out a bit. But one thing at a time. I'm not particularly great with computers. I need kind of computer wizard to live with me and fix things like this for me.
Mm. I thought I was going to have to do some sort of wizardry to get the Hangout working today. This is our 3rd attempt at setting up a Hangout this afternoon. It's just like,
Oh, at least we're getting there now. I think we've got it working. It seems to be.
yeah, it's a bit like just sitting there, Chevron 1 encoded, Chevron 2 encoded. Um, so the obviously the My Name is Jessica and The Secrets of Hidden Places were self-published. Grey Wings was actually published through DSD Publishing.
It was, yes.
How did you find? Because I've never published through a publisher. I've only ever self-published. What do you feel as the advantages and disadvantages of both?
Well, with Grey Wings being published, it was a godsend. It really was. Matthew was absolutely amazing. I can't sing his praises enough. He did so much for me. I mean, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I hope I would have figured it out eventually, but Grey Wings certainly wouldn't have been out in the condition it is now. It would have been much poorer without Matt's help. It really would have. It really would have been. So I quite liked publishing for that.
Mm.
But the other two, they're only short little stories and things. So I just thought I'd run them out myself, see if I couldn't see if I could do it really more than anything else. Just try both sets, self-publishing and publishing, and see which one I liked, and then go from there.
Because it can be sometimes it's just making that jump, if only to prove to yourself that you can make that leap and you can get the book out, and then once you've done it you can say, I've released the book, I've done it.
Oh, bummer. Not really. Jessica was heavily proofread, which was a good thing. Can't stress proofreading enough to people. It's marvelous. It's get everyone you know, everyone you can to proofread your stuff, because you've worked on it for so long and you put such an effort into it. You're not going to see all of its mistakes until you've got it finished. Then you'll read it again and you'll see a mistake on every page. So.
That definitely happened to me with Queen of Lendutor, and I look at the first draft which actually went to print, and I must have gone through that print 6 or 7 times, and it still managed to get out there on the first print run with all these spelling mistakes in it. So I definitely have to back you up there that proofreading, oh no, I can proofread you need fresh
cake, offer them beer, offer them whatever you can. just get people to help. Get people to read over it. You don't even have to give the whole book to some people, just give them a couple of chapters. The more eyes look over it, the better it will be, the more likely it is to go out with less mistakes in. I will say less. I'm never going to say none, because I think that's physically impossible. There will always be one.
Yeah, it's one of my pastimes is going through the BBC News website, picking all the mistakes, which I suppose is because BBC News, they have to type it up so quickly, they have to keep up with what's going on, so I think some casualties do get through the...
Yeah, I can imagine. Gosh, that's not something I'd ever want to do. My first drafts of everything are always absolutely awful, which is one of the reasons why it takes me as long as it does to churn out a book, be it long or short, is because I tend to do a first draft, put it down, go away from it for a month, sometimes 2, just to let it be by itself, because then when I go back to it, fresh eyes again, and I can just sit there and think, why did I do this? Why? It needs so much work to it. But it's good. I mean, if I did that and just put it down, then picked it up the next day, I would never see where it needs work at all. But
so allow that time for your brain to think of other things, and then go back to the idea. Because I was going to ask about if you had any advice for new writers, but I think we've covered quite a lot already. It's this, proofread, allow yourself time. Don't be afraid to put the draft down, go away, and come back later.
I usually have several projects going on at once. I mean, at the moment I'm working on something that I'm hoping to release every week next year, like a chapter a week. I'm working on it already because I know my first draft is going to be awful. Well, not awful, it'll be full of mistakes. So it'll give me a chance to get that first draft down, put it down, do something else. And while I'm working on that, I'm also going to be working on making plans for my second and third books. So I find the more I've got going on, the less likely my brain is to fixate on things, the more likely I am to see the whole plot holes, mistakes, characters that have suddenly turned 2-dimensional and they really shouldn't be. Things like that.
How do you...
Variety.
How do you go about developing characters? Do you have like crib sheets, or do you do mock interviews, or do you just find that they live in your head and they develop in there?
But again, it's a bit like most of the things I do. I tend to take mishmash or mix match from everywhere. Some characters just walk in and they're there, sticking around, they're fine the way they are. I find that my character Maya from my third book, which is the working title of Ghoul,
Hmm.
she walked into my head fully formed. I've got about 3 or 4 short stories just to get her to be quiet because she was kicking crap out of my brain, seriously,
Mm.
just begging to be noticed. But then there's other characters like for Grey Wings, Jason. Jason took a lot of work to come out,
Mm.
to be developed. He started out as just for want of a better phrase, he was just somebody for the other characters to talk to,
Mm.
somebody for them to bounce things off. But through time and the development of the story and the development of the characters around him, Jason ended up coming out as one of the strongest characters, and he's in fact the main character of the book.
Mm. I was going to say I was surprised to hear that he was sort of there originally to give Aurelius and the others someone to talk to, because it does feel very much like Jason's story, even though
Well, it is Jason's story. This is
It's Aurelius's journey, but it's also Jason. I'm surprised to hear that he was probably one of the last characters to really form.
he was a difficult little thing. Was Jason? He just heels in and said no quite firmly.
Mm.
For a bit of time and a bit of attention, and he blossomed. I make him sound like a young girl. he he really came out of his shell, and
Mm.
before I knew where I was, he was going toe to toe with Aurelius and winning sometimes,
Mm.
which is a rare thing. Very few people win against Aurelius.
Mm.
He's a bit fierce.
So you've mentioned that you've got this projects coming up, and you've got I think, did you call it school? Did you say that it was called?
Yes, well, my next book, my second book, is going to be Amente, which is, for want of a better phrase, it's a murder mystery,
All right.
told from the point of view of Bobtail, who is, among other things, a
Ah, so a cat who is a detective.
cat. An unwilling one, perhaps. He's more of thrown in the middle and accused and having to prove himself not guilty, as it were.
Ah.
So
You
yes,
have
and
a
then
cat.
but then after that one we've got Ghoul, which is Maya, who is again, among other things, a ghoul,
Hmm.
one of the creatures who eats the dead, living in London and trying to raise her son in a world that really doesn't want her to raise her son. And then after that one, we've got Grey House, which is the one I told you about earlier, where I sort of dreamt it, and it walked in there fully formed in my subconscious, which is quite a strange experience to have. It was like watching a movie, and I was just sitting there furiously trying to scribble everything down. Yes, but I do have details, of course, of all my upcoming and current projects on my website, and
Hmm.
so I don't expect everybody to remember everything.
No, and I will be providing a link to your website below this video as well,
Oh, that's
along
great.
with links to Grey Wings, which is currently available through Amazon. It's definitely in the UK, I assume in the US as well. And
It is. It's available pretty much all over, everywhere, I'm
worldwide,
afraid.
everywhere.
Yes,
Excellent. Well,
global domination. Why not?
begin. Right,
We've got lots of minions.
that was all the questions I wrote down. Look, we've ticked them all off.
Oh, lovely. Great stuff. That was fun.
It was really good fun. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be my interview guinea pig today.
No problem at all. More than happy to help. It was great. Should do one if this works. We should do one for you about Queen of. I always say it wrong. I always want to say Alendentor.
Yeah, I always say it wrong too, and it's my book. Don't worry about it. If my advice to new writers, don't give your world a really long name with 6 syllables in it. Keep your eyes out on Amazon for the next few days for The Secrets of Hidden Places, the title of which I keep forgetting. And My Name is Jessica, both very good books. I've read them. I actually read that one. I think I read this one in about 15 minutes. I thought I'll just have a quick look through, and then I'm there, and I literally could not put it down. It is a proper page turn.
Thank you. I'm really glad you liked it.
I just love the world and the concept and the way you left so much to the imagination. You just gave little tidbits to almost make it the world you wanted. It was really, really good.
It's a tactic I picked up on the word cloud. That place was really useful. It used to be, and it was just people have always said don't over describe stuff just because your reader will have a picture in their head before they've even realised of what that person looks like. And if you give too much description, it can contradict that and lead to arguments between you and your reader, and that shouldn't happen.
No.
So I tend to just give a couple of details and then let people see what they want.